Aloha, and welcome to the re-rack version of Trust and Verify, the show where we always have to start twice because the guy that produces this show sometimes doesn't know what the hell he's doing. No, actually, that had nothing to do with me. It wasn't my fault. Literally, it does look good now, though, on the restream. So hopefully, you guys out there joining us can actually see a show. So let me reintroduce my friend, my partner, my co-host, Boogie Bumper. Boogie, how's it going down there for the second time in about 5 minutes?
What? Yeah. Yeah. No. Just messing with you. Hopefully we're all good. Yeah, very good. Very good for the second time, James. Even better than I was the first time. We've loosened in. It's like we had a little false start, little trial run, but that's fine. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Thanks for sharing, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to see you all once again on this Sunday night. It's been a pretty big week, James. A lot of bombshells, a lot of revelations. I know you're on, I think we're up to about 37 shows a week, something of thereabouts there. But the best thing about this show is you get to do all of those practice runs, like from Monday to Saturday. You get to do the practice shows. And then on Sunday, by the time we get to Sunday, you've boiled down your message to such a, a beautiful, like a pure golden porridge for the rest of us to heat up and warm up and eat and devour. So I hope everyone's looking forward to seeing James say the exact same thing again for the 38th time. But thanks for joining us in the chat.
Way to sell the show, Boogie. Way to make everybody think like they're gonna they know me by now. They know I hate to say the same thing more than once.
Well, too bad. What's caught your mind's eye this week, James? Just straight off the bat. You noticed the title of the show, so we are going to get into Michael Cohen, Mueller, Huber. We've got a few things to go through before that, though. But what have you been thinking about? Because I like it when you let people into how your brain works on a day-to-day basis. You just pop up generally out of nowhere behind the wheel of the Red Menace in Hawaii, and you'll just throw things out and you'll let it stick for 10 minutes, and then it's like, okay, see you later, bye. And then there seems to be this thing where whatever you're talking about, it starts happening a few days later. So where's your mind at right now? Let us know.
This is going to be a seriously good MAGA week. I don't see very many pitfalls in the very near future. But I'm also one of those people like you that tends to thrive in a little bit of a chaotic environment. I'm the guy that's, I like that little bit of chaos that I can bounce from the one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, because I have a, rapid response rate to things. But I see these things that are shaping up. I'm looking at the news. I'm watching how they're panicking. I know that we got, Loretta Lynch testifying, followed by Comey, followed by Huber. We got, Papa Bush passing away. So, the president, when I did my scope the other day, man, when I saw what he did, I was like, oh, that's genius. Oh, that's brilliant. Like, as of now, it's brilliant. Like, of course, the people in the Congress could muck it all up and they could decide that, well, we're not going to have the Huber hearing either because we're going to observe something with George W. Bush as well. That's still possible. But for now, Donald Trump set up a snow day. And I don't know if you're familiar with that in Australia, but basically on a snow day,
not really.
Everybody is bored to death. On a snow day, there's nothing to do. You're stuck in your house. There's nowhere to go.
Right.
You can't do anything else, right? And so your focus is completely on usually, television, maybe a movie, something around your home. But in this particular case, we got Donald Trump sending all of the federal employees home. There is going to be absolutely nothing coming out of the government for the media to talk about. There won't be anything except for the one show, the one big production in the entire city of Washington, D.C. And that's going to be the Huber trial, or not trial, the Huber testimony. So it's interesting right now. That's what I'm looking forward to. I think that's a huge to-do. And nobody can say, oh, Donald Trump, da-da-da-da-da. No, hey, what did Donald Trump have to do with it? He didn't tell George Bush to die. I mean, come on. And he's setting up a thing of a moment of silence. And because it's a president, he's letting it last for an entire day. Like, this is a win-win. So I love it.
I appreciate that, James, but I am a little concerned that, you know, here I am giving your intellect and intelligence and your powers of observation a big compliment right at the start of the show. And then you feel the need to ask me if we have snow days or not. It's like you do realize where I am, right?
Yeah.
You do realize what country I'm in, right? But enough of that. Let's kick it off before we get to the serious stuff, James. Before we get to From Russia with Love, I wanted to let everybody in, and you know, let's feel the community, James, because 'tis the season to be jolly, and Christmas is just around the corner. So I wanted to bring up this article that came out earlier in the week. I think we absolutely have to talk about it from our favourite slate. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, James. Red trees of death. What message is Melania Trump sending with her red Christmas trees of death? My first question is, what message is Slate sending with this headline, James? It's like, we only report the facts here. We report the facts. Look at the red Christmas trees of death. Melania Trump unveiled this year's White House Christmas decorations on Monday morning, James, offering Americans their annual glimpse inside the psyche of the reluctant First Lady. Those who worried she couldn't top 2017's icy wonderland of lifeless foliage can breathe easy, now that we've been graced with the image of Trump fondling ornaments with arms characteristically unmoored from their sleeves, James. Last year, Trump marked her first Christmas in Washington with dancers performing a piece from The Nutcracker, a ballet in which a creepy entertainer grows to a terrifying size, relies on white women to win him a major battle, and orchestrates a rather xenophobic display of the world's cultures. Aren't these people just the happiest motherfuckers going around, James? Like, these are the kinds of people you want to invite to Christmas, don't you?
Yeah.
You know what? I think everybody who writes this claptrap in these kinds of publications, they for some reason I picture them like always dressed in black and like way too much white makeup on, and they've got like really black bags under their eyes, and it would be like the 1990s grunge goth kids. You know, like, hey, Merry Christmas, come in. Would you like some dinner? Would you like some eggnog? Like, Happy Christmas. And they go, what's happy about it? You know, I don't even care. you know that kind of shit. Oh, look, isn't this lovely? Welcome to the White House. Come and experience Christmas at the White House. What's so special about it? Why should we celebrate Christmas when there's so many people suffering? You know, like, it's like, oh, God, who invited the retarded cousin to Christmas again? God. She must have taken that criticism to heart, because that same hallway is now full of light. However, it is also lined with towering blood-red cones, a macabre take on trees that taints what might have been a bounty of winter fruit with the flavour of death, James.
Jesus, these people are
Dwarfing.
sick.
I know, right? See, this is more depressing than the imagery. I thought the red trees are quite striking, you know,
Yes.
Especially if the whole house is white. This is like interior design, you know, red goes well against white.
Yeah, in fact,
it's the red trees of death.
I mean, let's just look at Santa Claus's outfit, for Christ's sake. Is he now the Santa Claus of death? I mean, for Christ's sake, that's exactly the point. What the hell is wrong with these people? This is like morbid fantasy gone fucking wild. Like, you know, I mean, I don't even get it. Like, where do you get the trees of death? They're stunning. Look at that scene. And especially with Melania at the end of a hall of red trees. Like, I know everybody in our chat room is going, I wish I could afford some shit like that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the funeral workers in the North Pole are, you know, extremely happy and cheerful and colourful. Like, maybe I'll have to get buried at the North Pole, James. It's like, hey, everybody wear red. None of that black for us. Decorating the people's house for the holidays, James, is one of the presidential spouse's many domestic duties. See how they can't even frame Christmas decorations in a semi-sane way. No, this is one of her domestic duties. This is sexism. You know what I mean? If Hillary Clinton had have become president, James, would it then be Bill Clinton's responsibility to decorate the White House? What, would we just see like centerfolds just see like nude posters on the wall, perhaps a crack pipe on the Christmas tree. You know, hey, Hillary, we're gonna have some fun.
What do you think would be on the top of the tree instead of a star?
a little Mao, I think, or maybe a vampire.
Yeah.
Along with choosing a China or a cigar, choosing a China pattern and playing hostess with when dignitaries come calling. I do not envy Trump's position by which she's compelled to decorate a house she never wanted to inhabit in the first place. Still, she could have easily done a better job. Go ahead.
I'm going to choke to death. These guys are still trying to sell the narrative that she doesn't want to be in the White House, even though she's personally like debunked this, 18 times, like gone on national television and said, are you people crazy? Of course I love being the first lady. Like, it doesn't matter. These people are still trying to sell the narrative. She never wanted to win.
Yeah, remember too, like Donald Trump and Melania Trump have said many times, like she was the thing that pushed him over the edge to run. So he was getting asked by various generals and stuff like, will you run? And she was like, you're not Donald. If you run, you will win. You will win if you run. Everybody loves you, Donald. You know? Yeah. He's like, I don't know, Melania. I tell you what, I'll run as long as you turn the White House every year into a macabre sea of death and misery. How's that sound? Oh, that sounds fantastic. Sounds utterly fantastic. No, I think it looks spectacular. But every year we have to put up with like the stupidity. Thanksgiving is racist. Christmas is horrible and nobody should celebrate Christmas. Easter is, a tradition that needs to be put to the side. What else have you got, James? Independence Day, that's horrible as well. Yeah. It's becoming really usual routine, isn't it? Whatever the big event is, preferably a Christian one, whatever it is, we'll do our absolute best to bash it over the head every single time. But I think they're actually turning people like, I was never big on Christmas myself. But now I find, just out of sheer, would you say, frustration with the stupidity that these people put out there, and now I'm like the biggest Christmas guy going around. It's like, hey, Merry Christmas, everybody! Because their misery makes me feel joy. Their tears bring me happiness. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I got to say this, and most of our crowd is going to get this right away, is that Boogie highlighted it. He stole a little bit of the thunder here, but you get it. It's still gonna resonate very well with you. It's the full out attack on Christianity. That's what this is. It's the same tried and true claptrap of anti-Christian values, anti-family, anti-unity, and basically just pure and simple anti-God. That's what we watch, and that's what that article is. That article was probably written by a full-on socialist, communist, anarchist that literally is like an atheist that doesn't even realize they're so whacked out about their claim to atheism that they are actually believing in atheism harder than a Christian does in God. That's how it takes. Like there's that. A lot of people are familiar with what I'm talking about. When you claim to be an atheist so much that you're actually exhibiting the behavior you're accusing the other side of being. So that's what it is. You can see it. That's all they care about. Christmas isn't even supposed to be about the gifts, the toys, any of that. It's supposed to be a celebration of the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. That's what it is. And the celebration is expounded upon by us sharing our joy with each other. That's what's happening. And so when you get people like this, I'm glad that they're doing it, and for exactly the same reason as you are, is that it's going to cause people to take a new look at understanding why are these people just so rabid over some red trees. Like there's literally like every red is like the main color of Christmas. It's red and white. Like that's the main two colors of every single decoration everywhere in like every city across the nation. Red is the primary color for Christmas. It just is. And now these people want to sit here and make some claptrap up about how they're the red trees of death. I think it's like completely asinine, but yeah, whatever. It's still just the left attacking Christianity.
Well, who cares anyway? Christmas sucks. Everything is depressing. You people who walk around loving Christmas, you're racist. You're making other people feel sad. Do you put your own culture above other people's cultures? What about non-Christians? Yeah, this is offensive. They should just change everything red, white to black, James. If we could just all walk around wearing black at Christmas, then I guess the most,
we'll go black, green, black and green instead of red and green. It'll be black and green. These people are insane.
Well, looking forward to the future in the spirit of Christmas, James. People, Nancy Pelosi on the night of the midterms came out and said, we need to work together. Like, it's time for bipartisanship. Americans are sick of the division. Well, Salon disagrees, James. Beware the bipartisan trap. Democrats should resist pointless compromise. The DC fetish for bipartisan compromise is a misreading of history and a prescription for stagnation and disaster. With Democrats about to assume the House of Representatives, we're being treated to another round of wide-ranging calls for bipartisanship, both overtly and more insidiously in sub-rosa form, James. Democrats are supposed to act in a bipartisan manner, but without expecting either Donald Trump or Mitch McConnell to accept normal House oversight, which much less to sit down with them and pass any serious bipartisan legislation. So, the real message to Democrats is that they must not articulate a clear principled policy position of their own. I would say that's obvious. What policies do the Democrats actually legitimately have? Can you think of one? This is a serious question. Can you think of one policy that the Democrat Party is like united on and we must do this? I know they have policy sounding slogans like we stand for action on climate change. We demand healthcare reform. But then you always go to the second part of that. Okay, what does action on climate change actually look like? They don't know. So what do you mean by action on climate change? I don't know. I just want to be where the action is. Don't you want to be where the action is? We demand action on climate change. That's enough. That's all we need. Oh, we demand healthcare. What kind of healthcare? What does it look like? What does it mean? Well, everybody gets free healthcare. Like, okay, how are we going to do that? Shut up, racist. Yeah. Because that would only further polarization and tribalization, as argued in the deeply flawed Hidden Tribes report wrote about recently. The default assumption here is that an article of faith among the DC punditocracy, serious policy-making progress requires bipartisan consensus. In practice, this means Democrats always have to compromise, no matter how large an electoral victory they may win. The mirror effect is just staggering. It's always the Republicans that are compromising from what I can see from the outside looking in. It's always the Republicans having to go along with, oh, yes, well, okay, we'll hear your accusations about Brett Kavanaugh. If you want us to fly out there and do all that, we'll do that. Oh, okay, I guess we will investigate Ivanka. Yes, no, okay. I guess we will let Robert Mueller run wild around Washington to his heart's content. I guess we won't stand. That wouldn't be right. Oh, okay, I guess we'll let that go through. Yes, okay, we'll let Barack Obama do all these deals and fundamentally change these things. That's fine. Because when we get back in, we'll change it back maybe, unless John McCain's still alive. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. James, do Democrats compromise?
No, Democrats don't compromise. They try to act like they're the people's party. They try to act like the reason Republicans have to compromise with them is because they represent the people. Look, we found out for sure, for real, for 100% certainty that the Democrats are the ones that run the corporations. There's no way they can hide it anymore. 95% of all corporate money went to Hillary Rotten Clinton. There's just nothing they can do to disguise that. That's a fact. That the major people, in fact, you even have dummies like Mark Cuban literally spouting off at the mouth about how great the Democrat Party is. Yeah, now what? Now what, Mark? How much money did you just cost yourself? Because you've alienated half the country. All the shit you talked about to the president. So every company you have a part in, people are deliberately not spending extra money with you. Right? Because you're a moron. But let's say, if you take all that into consideration and you understand where these people are coming from, the one united thing that I can point to right now that's an issue that I think people need to be aware of, because this is going to be a 2020 campaign issue: universal basic income. Keep that in mind. These people are going to fight for universal basic income. It's slavery. They literally are going to try to enslave you with free money. This is the same thing as artificially jacking up minimum wage. Minimum wage does never help minimum wage earners. It still means you're going to live a minimum lifestyle. It's in the word. It's in the title. Minimum wage equals minimum lifestyle. Middle wage equals a middle lifestyle. Rich means fuck all of you. It's pretty freaking simple to figure this out, right? So what are they going to try to do to you? Universal basic income, so that they can put you wherever they want you, play with the numbers, enslave you to the government. It is socialism. It is communism. It is just disguised by another name. They're going to fight for this in 2020. And I did a scope a long time ago, and I think I did it here on Tab's show, to be honest with you, where you and I talked about, and I said, and I think you agreed, I don't know, we'll get your take on it now, is that keep your eye on Michelle Obama. They're going to run her. Look at what she's doing right now. I told you this is why Barack Obama and her were doing their simultaneously, world tours. Think about it. They weren't just trying to match Hillary and Bill. These guys are serious. Like, if I remember, somebody just sent me a DM. One of you guys here, probably in the chat, you sent me a DM about the show she just did. She filled a 19,000 seat stadium. I don't know if people paid for that. I don't know how they got there. I don't know if there was a concert involved. I don't know if Jay-Z rappelled in and started dancing. I don't know. But I do know that she's going to run at least exploratory, and they're going to do it as this is what we need. We need a black woman who's going to bring you universal basic income. Mark my words, that's a dangerous move right there.
It's interesting. I wouldn't have thought, you know me, James, I'm open to discussion. I'm open to having my mind changed. But for those who, kind of get their panties in a twist or whatever, if people have a disagreement or some kind of debate, well, then I'm afraid this isn't the show for you, comrade. You'll be better served on the ranks of the consensus addicted. So I would have thought that running Michelle probably isn't as likely, because I figured that the anti-PC, we'd be further down the road by now. I thought identity politics is going to nosedive once Donald Trump gets in. Of course, they double down on it because they're like, now we need identity politics even more. I do see a little bit of a shift within the Democrat Party rank and file, James, trying to get the leadership to get away from identity politics. I think this is perhaps why Nancy Pelosi and Schumer and the rest are starting to change the narrative back to middle class, right? Back to working class. Oh, we've got to, we look after the jobs. We love the workers again. We love the middle class again. They've hated it for the last 30 years, mind you. But see, with the universal basic income, I think it could be even more sinister than that. And it depends on how far down the rabbit hole you want to go. Like, do we have permission to go full tinfoil hat here or what?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I can go there.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Let me real quick, before you get on your shiny hat, let me just address, we all know, I see the chat room has lit up. I want to be clear with you, Boogie. There's literally been 200 messages that all say Michelle Obama is a man. He's a tranny. We know it. We've seen the package. Okay? We're clear. We understand. We're in agreement here. You didn't need to post 200 chat messages trying to convince me. I'm on board. I'm giving you the Democrat talking point. But let's shine up that tinfoil hat and take back over.
Well, okay. Now I've just been told Michelle Obama's pathway to victory, James. Imagine if she did indeed come out as a trans woman just before she ran for the president. Then I would think she probably wins. She probably wins at that point. A lot of people are going to say, oh, this is ridiculous, but can you imagine the average person that doesn't really get involved into the politics of identity and the politics of gender, somebody who just goes and lives their life, they would say, this is the bravest thing that anybody's ever done. Oh my God, it's fantastic. Can you imagine it, James? Don't say it won't happen. That might be the perfect place for the reveal, metaphorically speaking.
What's the best way to reveal the first gay president ever? It already happened.
The presidential penis, James.
Think about that. Think about that, right?
Yep. It would be something. Back on UBI, though, Universal Basic Income. I hope you've got your tinfoil hats on, guys. I hope they're nice and shiny so it deflects the alien rays trying to read your brain while we go through this. If you cast your mind back, James, it was actually like the big tech boffins and the big multinational corporation heads that first began pushing UBI seriously around 4 or 5 years ago. Before that, it's actually been spoken about for a long time. You can read early UN documents from the 1950s, James, where they for the life of me, I forget the ideology, but it had an ideology all of its own. Like, I know people are saying communism, socialism. That's not necessarily true, because if you actually look objectively at communism, you don't get money for nothing. Like, if you stop working, you die, right? There's a difference there.
Yeah.
So it's actually very brutal, right? You get minimum wage for doing as much work as possible. So they were talking about in the 1950s, one day the robots and the machines are going to take over, and we'll all get to live, a very, would you say, we would all live like in a very luxurious lifestyle, James. We'd have all this time to sit around and read poetry and write music and paint things, because the robots and the machines would be doing all the work. So then when you read things like the rise of automation, James, the Internet of Things, we have factories replacing workers as we speak. Workers on Wall Street are now replaced by self-writing AI software, which can predict shifts in money trends far quicker than any human being can. But people often misunderstand it's the white-collar jobs that are first to go with automation, not the blue-collar jobs. It's a lot easier to get a machine to write an algorithm that does calculations on financial trading than it is to get a machine to drive a truck and pick up garbage bins, for example. Like, they're two very different things. So the move towards universal basic income was first started to being pushed about 4 or 5 years ago by these big tech companies and these multinational companies. And to which I would often get arguments from people, James, saying, well, this is fantastic because people will need money to consume. And therefore, these companies, when they replace us with the machines, the workers with the machines, they're going to pay us this money and we'll be able to continue buying products and they'll get richer because we won't be able to work. We won't have jobs. And then I would just simply throw this curveball in. I would say, okay, so why do you think then that a industry and, these very, very rich, powerful money men, why do you think that they are, one, so desperate to replace you, and then two, benevolent? So why would they pay you all of this money to just exist? Like, if you're not contributing anything to them, why do you think that they want to keep you alive? Fat, slovenly, lazy, stupid, sitting around in your house, eating, drinking all day, not really doing anything, just becoming a drain on the system. Why do you think that they would, one, spend trillions of dollars to replace you as a worker, and then two, let you just exist anyway for the pleasure of it? It doesn't really make any sense. Now, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? Perhaps universal basic income over the course of 10, 20 or 30 years just gets society nice and normalized to the idea of we don't have to do anything for money. It gets you nice and asleep. It puts you into a nice, welfare-induced stupor.
Yep.
Before perhaps, James, one day when they have the technology available, because you're not working, because you're not thinking, because everything is provided for you, it may be a far easier task at that point to take you all out.
Hey, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. 100%. You hit the nail on the head. And how far down that do you want to go? Like, at what point? At what point in the stage do they start? Think about this. You'll have to get mandatory vaccinated. It'll be like and they'll sell it to you as a benefit that, look, we can
already have here, Jack. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. We already do that here. We already have mandatory vaccination here. If you don't get your child vaccinated, you can't get welfare. You can't put your kid into daycare. You can't enroll your kid in school. That already happens here.
Yeah, but now I'm gonna ratchet that up a notch. Is that how about that in order to be on welfare, you have to get sterilized? How about in order to receive your universal basic health care, you have to give up the ability to have children? How about in order to get your universal health care, you can no longer drive a car? Think about these things. This is not hard to do. Once you're on the government tit, once they control you, once they've removed all of your ability to work, once they have removed your ability to own property, what's in the news right now? What is in the news right now? These big time rich fucks are trying to tell us, oh, private property is a thing of the past. That's an old thing. That's when people used to farm. We don't farm anymore. We don't need private property. Think about how these things are connected. If they take away your ability to grow your own food, they do it by taking away your property rights. They do it by preventing you from not only feeding yourself or procreating or doing anything that you want to do with your life. And then they might let you survive long enough until you become one of those homeless people laying on the street somewhere. Believe me, this is their plan. This is why you see people saying, what the fuck is wrong with the left? Why do they not see that this is the automatic, logical conclusion to their program of universal basic health care? Universal basic health care is, I saw somebody in the chat post it, Agenda 21. Absolutely. This is 1984. You literally will be a number walking around with your hand out, hoping to survive one more day, hoping to get it through your head, hoping that you can just have one more meal before they fucking kill you. This is, there might not be a single thing on this planet more dangerous than universal health care. And they're talking about it right now in the news. And if you doubt me, go look up right now, just do a search, and you will see that just days ago, the two biggest idiots in the Senate were talking about it. The two biggest idiots, Kamala Camel-Toe Harris and what's the guy, I can't even, Corey freaking, I can't remember his name, the guy who... Spartacus, yes. Spartacus, that guy. Two biggest idiots in the Senate were just talking about it. And we got another idiots that are talking about getting rid of private property rights. Wake up, spread the message, pay attention, shit's about to get real. We got to dig in. Now, I want to move away from the doom and gloom because we've been kicking it real to them. Unless your next article is more doom and gloom, because I want to finish right here with what I'm saying on this subject is arrests are already happening. We're going to prosecute these sick fuckers, but we still got to worry about education. We still have to worry about educating the people who aren't smart enough, like you guys watching this show right now. We got to educate them, not beat them up, not call them names, not call them stupid, but literally educate them on why this is so dangerous. When you lose your property rights, you lose the ability, the opportunity to grow food, which means you lose the ability to feed yourself. Once you lose that ability and they give you universal health care or universal basic income, you get stuck on that welfare system, you ain't never getting off. Ask the people that are trying to get out of the ghetto right now how easy it is to get off of welfare. Just ask them.
Well, and, you know, over the last 10 years, James, look at the amount of restrictions that, say, bodies like the EPA would put on, like farmers, for example. Farmers can no longer decide entirely what they do with their own land. That's already happening. That already happens. You know, you can get in trouble for cutting trees down on your own property. If the tree was some kind of sacred, if there was some kind of sacred tree frog in the tree, James, look out. You've got a prison sentence, baby. One more thing just on the universal basic income and stuff. And you went there, and I'm just going to expand on it a little bit, and then we'll get into the happy stuff. Okay. You said, like, oh, okay, how can people not see what the left is? To be fair, it's just as much the right. And yes, this is something that we can come together on. These are the issues, right? Where it doesn't have to be right and left. Sure, have your arguments with right and left on things like, you know, individual rights versus collective good, or, you know, healthcare should be private or it should be public. These are the issues that you can debate on. But if you're talking, there was a question in the chat, James. Oh, okay, so why do we have mass migration then if everything's going to be automated? Well, if you think through it down to the second level, what a perfect way to create the kind of chaos and what they would term something like economic displacement, James. Have you ever heard of that term, economic displacement?
Yes. Yeah.
You bring in a whole bunch of cheap workers, which the right wants because they want A, more consumers, and B, to suppress wages for the big business. You bring in cheap workers. This causes a kind of economic displacement for the middle class. Now you've got a whole bunch of people who are formerly middle class and working class who can no longer find work or are being beaten into work by the cheap labour, which is being brought in mass migration style by both the right and the left. And then, like we said, universal income is pushed like primarily by who? The tech valley boffins and the multinational corporations, James. The big money, you know, remember the guys on the right? Then the left in Tech Valley and the right in the multinational corporations get together and say, hey, we know things are tough. Guess what? Combined, a bipartisan effort. We've got the solution for you. Sit home, get fat, get stupid, get lazy, and just take our money. Shut up and take my money.
I disagree with your. I disagree with you on one point. Is that I'm going to insist, based on this last election, that there is no right that basically is in those multinational corporations, because every one of them is acting like a leftist. Every one of them sent all their money to Hillary. Every one of them tried to buy influence through the Clinton Foundation. Every one of them is operating against the principles of conservatism right there. Now, I agree that they are disguised, a lot of them, inside. We call them rhinos, like Paul Ryan. You know what? Let's sign in a petition to officially change his name to Paul Rhino. So Paul Rhino was one of the leaders there in Congress of this type of faction, where they are Democrats. They literally are liberal lefties hiding in the Republican Party, which is where we get the term uniparty from. So there's so much confusion on labels that you have people out there that are slamming conservatism because idiots like John McCain and Paul Rhino, all these people claim to be conservatives. They never met a frickin' thing about conservatism. They don't. When your first words out of your mouth is government should do something about that, that's proof in my book you're not a fucking conservative. You're a fucking lefty, because conservatives believe in small government.
Allow me to rebut that just one thing then. So I guess the thing is definition, right? Yeah. So I would say to you that even though the big multinational guys who support Hillary Clinton, if we're the reason I was saying people on the right, people on the left, James, these guys who are on the left, you could easily describe them as uber capitalists. I mean, you've got hedge fund managers who short economies. Like, these are the capitalists. And they are the ones who push like the left social issues and the hashtags and stuff they portray. So we've been talking about for a long time. At the top, there's no difference between them. Hillary Clinton is as much as the communists would look at Hillary Clinton and say this chick is a uber capitalist, crony capitalist scumbag, just like the quote unquote top of the right. And we look at the top of the right and say these guys are pushing like all of the idiotic left-wing ideas just like the top of the left. Right. So it's crony capitalism and control for them. They pull up the drawbridge, and it's socialism and slavery for us. Yep. That's the distinction. Right? Yep. It's us, the voters, versus them, the political class, not us, the voters, versus each other. That's the thing. That's the mindset we have to break down. But moving ahead, you did touch on it I mean, this is like, there's so much breaking down I think we could do, and like people could get together and, hey, let's just take out the swamp, and then we'll have a discussion about whether you want a third toilet in government buildings or not. All right, then we could have that debate, because it's not really the most important one. Unless Michelle Obama wins the presidency, then everybody's getting a third toilet, whether they like it or not. You did touch on Huber. Is it Huber? We'll call him Huber. We'll hail a Huber. All right. So this came out the other day, James, and I touched on it in a podcast, but I want to expand on it. Trump threatens to declassify Russia docs to counterpunch Dems. See how the headline is counterpunch. This is the known right-wing conspiracy website, James The Hill. They use the term counterpunch even though the original punch hasn't come yet. So you could easily say that in preparation for Donald Trump doing it, they're saying that it's a retaliatory move, even though the original move hasn't necessarily happened yet, right? The media does shit like this all of the time. President Trump on Wednesday threatened to declassify documents related to the Russia investigation that he claimed would be damaging to Democrats if they decide to investigate him when they take control of the House next year. Trump's comments made in an interview with the New York Post came 2 months after he walked back his original plans to declassify and publicly release the documents as a result of concerns from US allies and his own Justice Department. Just on the US allies argument, and I know that Dan Bongino, for one, has spoken extensively on this, so I'm not going to, go over the same ground. But he said there's massive pressure from the UK and Australia to, hey, you can't release these documents, you can't declassify because you're going to embarrass us because we were spying on Americans. I don't know who saw there was only one tweet, I think, the other day from one of the news services, Donald Trump and Scott Morrison sitting down, shaking hands, enjoying a nice chat. On the day that Scott Morrison became the PM, the very next day, James, he reached out to Donald Trump publicly on Twitter to speak about how we've been working together for, over 100 years. We've fought side by side in all of these wars. And he even shared a story of an Australian war hero, a guy who was a medic who would go in and rescue the Americans in World War I think it was, and World War II, one of the wars, I forget which one. And he would go in and, he got various medals and stuff. He was an unarmed medic who would race into, battlefields and he saved, 10, 20 Americans in one particular battle, something like that. So you can see straight away there, Scott Morrison, even though in the press they would have you believe that it's highly unpopular to reach out to Donald Trump and be on the side of Trumpism, Scott Morrison, the new PM, is like, I don't think so. I don't think so. So maybe potentially this declassification conversation might have come up, James, and it might have said, Donald, do what you got to do, because our Prime Minister here is in big trouble as well. If he could somehow put, any kind of bad news on the former administration, which was also from the same party, but not really. I mean, it's like we call them linos here, Liberals in name only, because the Liberal Party is our centre-right party. So if he can put the linos in a bad light, he would absolutely do it. If they want to play tough, I will do it, Trump said the Post. They will see how devastating those pages are. So with the backdrop of the Huber testimony, James, I can go either way on it. I don't know if Huber is going to come out. I'm not sure it's going to be a bombshell thing. I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think there's going to be a lot of milquetoast stuff that's presented, and I think what you'll find is the same thing that we find every other time. And this may be disappointing to some people in the chat, don't get me wrong. But I've been saying this for 2 years that you've known me on this little app while I've been doing podcasts in this area. Dispense with expectation. Expectation is what kills you. If you're expecting the Democrat House of Cards to fall on December 6th, then if it doesn't happen, you're going to be angry. You're going to be disappointed. And that anger can then be manipulated and turned against you. Same thing for the Democrats. If you're expecting that absolutely nothing whatsoever is going to come of this, or even better, Donald Trump's going to be thrown in jail for impeachment, dispense with expectation, because that anger and that disappointment, when that doesn't happen, that's going to come back to bite you, right? So I think there's a chance. I think the probability is Huber will give testimony. It won't be anything spectacular, but the Democrat side will come out and say, see, it was a big nothing burger, nothing going on. And on the right, we will look for every little, sentence that was said. And, oh, wait, did you see? He said that one thing about the 2 FBI agents. That means that there's a whole nother set of bombshells to drop. I tended to think it's going to be along those lines. What do you think?
Yes, most of what you said, but I got some nuggets here. All right, so first let me address the chat. Okay, there's people in the chat that are experiencing exactly what you just described. See, they're the ones that are saying, we've seen no arrests. Nothing's happening. Nothing's been done. Bullshit. Bullshit this. Bullshit that. Why? Because they had expectations. Their expectations are that certain people should have been arrested. If you don't think anybody's being arrested, you're seriously not paying attention. It's on Twitter. There's already arrests that have been made. They're literally arresting people now. That's number one. Number two is that look at Donald Trump after the election. Now, people like me predicted over a year ago, well over a year ago, that we weren't going to get this until after the midterms. It's on my timeline. I don't erase anything. I don't delete anything. It's not only on my Twitter timeline, it's on my Periscope timeline. And what did the president do? The day after the election. That's the day that he fired Jeff Sessions. And he said, sorry, Jeff, can't finish out the week. Why? Because I got shit I got to do. And he got Whitaker in there, right? So he's already been on a war footing. Let's look at his language. The language the day after the midterms. He was like, I thought he looked like Muhammad Ali out there. He was like, man, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Let's go. Punch like a butterfly. Let's go. The guy was on a war footing. You could see it immediately. He's still been on a war footing. Look at what he's saying to the press. Look at what he's doing to the press. Look at his rhetoric is completely different from before to after the election. We know what's going on. And now I'm going to give you the nugget. I'm going to give you the nugget for everybody watching this show right now that missed the Ladies of Liberty for the last 2 weeks. Director Mike. Director Mike from Border Narcotics was on our show. He's a regular on our show. He's on every week. He's talking to the people in the DOJ. Why? Because he has a security clearance. Why? Because he's a retired Fed spending his pension to save our butts. He's there. He's talking to these people. Director Mike, 3 weeks ago, said, that I don't believe anything to do with those indictment stories. It's all bullshit. I haven't seen anything, haven't heard anything. That was 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, he came on the show and said, guys, I got new intel. Guys, literally, I was just told from a high rank from his friend in the DOJ. Literally was just told, there's indictments coming right now. He literally said, there's indictments coming right now. And he said, one of them, he's being told, one of them, well, the name starts with an H. He said these words. Now, this is a guy that doesn't play any games, doesn't pull punches. He's a cop mentality. He's a pessimist. He doesn't believe shit unless you show him. He's from Missouri. I'm from the show me state. You got to show me, fucker. Okay? That's the guy that's telling you there are indictments now. He knows it for a fact. They're coming. What else do we get? We get releases all over the mainstream media that are telling you that indictments are coming. They're telling you because it's being leaked by multiple sources in the FBI. Now, who's not reporting that? Who is not reporting that is CNN. Just about every single other network has been reporting it. FBI is leaking out indictments are coming, right? From their sources. DOJ leaking out that indictments are coming. The President of the United States is making sure you're paying attention to what's going on right now with John Huber. Indictments are coming. Now, having said that, yes, I agree with you. Huber's testimony is not going to be this big bombshell that ends it all. There's nothing that's going to be the kill switch. Okay? There's no magic bullet. But what you're going to see is the further activity in our favor. Further things happening, just like has been happening. Arrests are being made. And here's something extra special. Extra special for all the Jeff Sessions haters. The ones that just, Jeff Sessions didn't do a goddamn thing. Of course he did. Look at a year ago. I just posted it yesterday, the other day, of what he's the one that set in place all of this structure. When he was asked, how did we find out? How did we even find out that John Huber existed? Oh, because when he was asked about a second special counsel, Jeff Sessions says, yeah, we don't need a second special counsel. I've already got a guy working on it. Remember, Jeff Sessions put that in place. That didn't happen. Matthew Whitaker didn't put Huber on the case. Huber's already been on the case with a very large budget. That was orchestrated under Jeff Sessions. Now, I've explained this Jeff Sessions thing 100 different ways and 100 different times. Look back at the historical records of what he did during this period. He was the meticulous, methodical contract lawyer that he is. He's famous for him going as a prosecutor into the law library and not leaving it until his case was buttoned up, front to back, upside down, left to center, every which way you could possibly run that case. He had it buttoned up before he left that law library. This is a meticulous man that does things like set up structures. This is a guy who was in the Senate, and a very successful Senate. He was the first senator on the entire planet to endorse Donald Trump. He did it when it was going to cost him. He did it when Donald Trump had 5% polling. Okay? He was the first guy out there backing Donald Trump. Suddenly he's an asshole? I don't think so. I think he made a bad decision. I think the president thinks he made a bad decision, and that forced Donald Trump's hand because of that recusal. However, he set all the structure he possibly could in place for Matthew Whitaker to take place right now. So don't hate on Jeff Sessions for one bad decision that he may have made. Hell, we don't even know if it was a bad decision. That might have been an orchestrated decision with Donald Trump. We have no fucking idea. Why? Because I'll tell you this. John Huber's investigation didn't have a single fucking leak for over a year. You didn't even know he was investigating until that thing was wrapping up. You've only known about John Huber for what, 4, 5, 6 months? I mean, it's not been long. So just think about these things. Really think about what's going on and let your anger go. Quit thinking that you know everything, because you damn sure don't. Because I damn sure don't. I know. I pay attention. This is literally like my second job. I get intel leaked to me from people, for Christ's sake. And I don't know what the hell's going on. So how the hell are you going to tell me you know what the hell's going on? It ain't possible. Why? Because I know that Donald Trump, what he wants done is being done. I trust that man. I have faith in that man. He made these decisions. He did them on time, exactly as I predicted, because I can read the damn tea leaves pretty damn well, which is why my timeline has about a 96% success rate. Wait, let me say Meg is awesome. It just jumped to 99%. But anyways, that's an inside joke. I love you guys. I'm going to kick it back over here to Boogie.
One of the reasons why I like doing this show, James, is because we have very different ways of approaching things, and our brains work in very different ways as well. So where I like to really slow walk through a point and, you know, articulate all of the little nuances and stuff, sometimes I can leave myself, when contrasted against you and your shotgun style, it's like, hey, this guy sitting in the shadow isn't really saying anything at all. Like, you know, because it's a lot different. When I'm on my own, I can spend an hour and a half walking through a point, walking through an argument, articulating every little tiny aspect. When I'm with you, I've got about 5 minutes, and then it's just bang, 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 bang. And I look down and I've just like got holes in my abdomen where I didn't even like, how the hell did that happen? Where did that come from? But I will say I'll just throw this in before we get to the next story. Again, dispense with expectation. Okay, let's just say indictments are absolutely coming and Hillary Clinton is absolutely going to be indicted. An indictment is not a guilty plea. An indictment is not a guilty verdict. An indictment means, okay, you're about to be challenged, right? So that's another expectation that you need to drop. Like if people think, oh, okay, just say people start getting indicted and you think that it's over at that point. It's not. The problem is, if you're prosecuting a very public case, what people understand is even though it's a court of law, even though it's, you know, the law takes precedence and evidence and all of that kind of stuff, you need very, very, very public support to prosecute very, very public figures, right? So even if, because this is what the swamp, this is what the deep state, whatever you want to call them, this is what the political class have relied upon for generations, James. This is how they get away with the corruption. It's not that evidence doesn't exist. They get away with it because they know ultimately you don't care enough. You don't know enough. You don't care enough. You don't have the information, and there isn't the kind of public support that would cause the political class to investigate itself for corruption. Now, one may argue part of the strategy behind this, like, you know, this drip, drip, drip of information, part of the strategy behind the Q thing, whether Q is a real person or not, Q may be a LARP in the sense that it is somebody who is just trying to maintain momentum. Like, it doesn't have to be, you know, a secret agent. It doesn't have to be someone on the inside. It might just be somebody who is doing a psyop to get you to react in the way that you will maintain the rage, which is a very common saying on the left, James. Maintain the rage. Stay angry, right? Because if you're going to prosecute people who have very public figures, you need a big amount of public support in order to get that over the line. Because otherwise, guess what? It just goes away. It just all goes away because you don't care enough, you're not angry enough, you're not saying enough, you're not paying attention. And, you know, 10 years from now, you turn around and say, whatever happened to that investigation? Who knows? Who cares? I've got universal basic income. Let's go to Macca's, everyone. Let's go to McDonald's. Who cares? The football's on today. Why am I worrying about politics? Here's another article for you, James, the New York Times. What happens if the possibilities ahead in the Russia investigation suggest we are not reaching the end of a nightmare, but rather entering one? Oh, goody. I no longer think that anyone in America, including Donald Trump's most loyal supporters, that's you, James, can afford to put off the consideration of the central question of this administration. What if Donald Trump or those closest to him were compromised by the Russians or colluded with them? There have always been those of us on the left who viewed his presidency as compromise, asterisk-worthy, if not wholly illegitimate because of the Russian interference. A crime had been committed by Russia, and Trump cheered the crime and used the loot thereof to advance his candidacy. That much is clear. The Russians made repeated attempts to contact people in Trump's orbit, and in some cases were able to meet with members of the team, as evidenced by the Trump Tower meeting. That is clear. Again, not a crime. They said, we're meeting to give you Hillary's emails. That was never forthcoming. And the people that were actually there, the quote-unquote Russians, were working for Fusion GPS, which was hired by Perkins Coie, who was paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign. The Steele dossier, which was used by Hillary Clinton to prosecute a case against Donald Trump, was obviously written by a guy named Christopher Steele, who literally, in his own words, used his Russian contracts in order to secure information to put in the Steele dossier. Right? But the people who support and defend Trump, this has already been absorbed and absolved. They may not like it, but they are willing to overlook it. No, I just did look at it. I explained it completely what it was, right? I'm not overlooking it. It's just nothing. Indeed, they are so attached to Trump that his fortunes and his fate have become synonymous with theirs. There is a spiritual linkage, James, a baleful bond between the man and his minions. You see, they're not upset about anything that individually Trump did. The rage that keeps seeping through. And once you have some experience with like rhetorical analysis, here's the thing. Here's a little like inside baseball for you, like opening the kimono. Once you have experience with reading this stuff with, writing tone is kind of like a fingerprint. So it's very, very difficult for people to hide their writing tone. Like there are certain styles of writing and certain ways of argumentation which are just like red lights, you know what I mean? Like, you know exactly where this person's coming from, you know exactly what they think, you know exactly what biases they have, and it's all evidence in just the words that they choose to use in various places and stuff. It's very, very difficult to not have that when you're a professional writer. Cohen's guilty plea, this is the Washington Post, suggests Russia has leverage over Donald Trump. Top down. Have to use logic here. Did you want it? This is a free hit, James. I'll underarm this to you, like over the plate. You send it where you want it.
No, I can't even articulate my thoughts on this because it's so stupid. Just reading that headline, you're like, really? So Russia has leverage over Trump, but Trump went ahead and canceled the meeting with him, disrespected him by saying like, well, yeah, we're not going to meet until you give back to Ukraine their shit. Literally has done nothing but try to push Syria into a position where Russia's losing on that battlefront, is going after Iran with more Iran sanctions. Russia's losing on that front. I'm sure not seeing where Russia's won yet since Donald Trump has come into office. Not once. 2 years. Nothing. Nothing has gone in Russia's way, and yet they still can write headlines like that, and Philly can still go in the chat and think that there's some substance to it. It's like their cognitive dissonance requires them to hang on by the skin of their teeth, by their fingernails, to this crazy bullshit narrative that like normal humans just look at and go, you guys are insane. Like this is like, now it's beyond, this is beyond Trump derangement syndrome. This is like full batshit nuts. Like you're 2 years in and the evidence is in front of you that nothing happened. Like literally your hero, the left's hero Mueller, is indicting ham sandwiches for crimes against cheese, and you guys still think there's something there with Russia. So I don't get it.
Well, that's the thing. Again, at this point, like how many times have we said it over the last couple of months, James? Perception is reality. Truth doesn't matter. Like I spoke about this on Thursday night in relation to, the Laura Loomer incident, and some advice that I was given years ago, James, which still holds true to this day. You need to forget about what you think is right or wrong. Right? What you personally think of as right and wrong is irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant in this space. It's only about, are you effective or ineffective? This is the game that everybody in politics plays. Right and wrong, truth, lie, good, bad, it all comes second to either being effective or ineffective. The reason that this is true is because we get dragged into these kinds of roundabout conversations and arguments that really aren't the actual issue that we're discussing here. So if something happens, if somebody does something in the press or some kind of activism, people will get angry and they'll say, she's doing the right thing, or he's saying the wrong thing, or this is morally good, or this is morally bad. When you have to understand that political agents and operatives don't even work on that level. Because good, bad, right, wrong, truth, lie, it doesn't matter. It's about is my opponent being effective or ineffective? Is this attack effective or ineffective? Once you view things that happen in that paradigm, it becomes very difficult to get upset, and it becomes very difficult to be surprised by anything. If you expect that everything is about effectiveness or ineffectiveness and falls back on the three laws of politics, that is, everything that happens is either effective or ineffective in what? Getting power, keeping power, and stopping someone else from taking it, all of a sudden, like 50 layers of bullshit just evaporate into the sky.
That's right.
I can't stress that enough.
Oh, absolutely.
What do you think, James?
125% agree with you. I mean, we're stepping it up a notch on how much I agree with that statement. I mean, it's so simple to see. That's why a lot of the stuff you and I, like, sometimes you'll see something happen on Twitter and you'll call me up and you'll be like, did you see this? And we're both laughing, and there's people that are hysterical on both sides of the coin. And we're like, wait a minute. Have you ever paid attention to a single show that we told you about? Like, I literally just started this show off with explaining how Michelle Obama is dangerous. Why? Because she's following the three laws of politics, and we're in a post-truth era. It doesn't matter, but she's selling something that somebody's buying. You got that's all you need to know, is that it doesn't matter that she's full of shit. It doesn't matter that we think Barry Obama's going to prison. It doesn't matter about anything else. What matters is she effectively communicating to voters the things she wants them to think? That's what matters. And so when you see that, you have to say, how do I effectively follow the third law of preventing that opponent from getting power? See, it comes down to the three laws of power every single time. So is it helping me get power? Is it helping me keep power? Is it helping me remove power or prevent my opponent from getting power? Those are the three things you need to understand. And right now, Donald Trump just increased his power. Well, I talked about this before. This is what everybody needs to really understand, especially the people who are nervous about the indictments and things like that. Things like the Senate not doing things he wants. Donald Trump's power went up because every single candidate that he stumped for basically won. So he increased his power with the Republicans. Simultaneously, because we increased our majority, every Republican senator's power went down. Why? Because it got watered out a little bit. Their individual power went down. That's a doubling effect. His went up, theirs went down. Simultaneously to that, the left didn't get any gains in the Senate. They lost more power in the Senate. And I told you over a year ago, so did the president, so did everybody else. It's all about the Senate. The Senate's where judicial nominees take place. The Senate is where cabinet appointments take place. The Senate will stop all of the bullshit, dumbass things that are going to come out of the House when the House is run by Nancy Pelosi. Now, here's another benefit that nobody's talking about. Donald Trump knows they cheated in the election, warned them not to cheat in the election, told them FBI and everybody else in law enforcement across the country was going to watch them cheat during the election. They cheated anyways. We got the evidence. People are going down. This is win, 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 and win some more. The power structure, and it matches exactly. We're going to start calling them the three laws of political thermodynamics. The three laws of political thermodynamics. Get power, keep power, prevent my opponent from gaining power. It's beautiful to watch.
Yep. And just one more thing before we go to the hammering, James, just on Donald Trump saying, because we've spoken about this concept, timing is everything. That didn't start with Q. That's been around for as long as politics has been around. Timing is everything. Why is timing important? Because you need to maximize effectiveness. Why do you need to maximize effectiveness? To either get power, keep power, or stop somebody else from taking it. So, again, like, people are upset. People are like, why don't you just release everything now? I'm here to tell you, if you think about it, you would know this on an intrinsic level. You don't need to have insider knowledge here, but I'm telling you it's true. Politicians will sit on reports and information for literally years, waiting for the time when it is most effective to release it. And you might say, well, that's ridiculous. But if you think about it, just say it's 2016 and you have a report that was written in 2013 that says if the government does a particular policy shift in the area of housing, it's going to cause more poverty. And it might be a week before an election campaign, James, and the government is running on the platform of doing X policy, you know, in regards to housing. And then you would wait and you would say, Johnson, you would say to one of your aides, do you still have that report that we did back in 2013 with the Harvard law study and all of that? Yeah, I've got it in my office. Great. Bring it out, because the Republicans just announced that they're going to change this housing law, and we need to get this into the media now. Get that to the Hill, get it to the Times, get it to the Post. Next thing you know, CNN, MSNBC are talking about the report that was in the Washington Post the day before. Shock report. Back in 2013, we learned that this policy shift would change. They wouldn't even say the date. A report has been released by the Democrats proving that this policy shift in housing would cause mass poverty and, you know, more hunger and all that kind of shit. And then the Democrats pick it up and run with it. The Republicans want everyone to be broke. They hate the underprivileged. They hate the working classes. Bang, 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 bang. Someone turns around and says, hey, this was actually written in 2013. They'll go, oh, so what? What's the difference? By that time, it's too late. So Donald Trump waiting until House sits before he releases any D-class. And I think he has to do it now at this point, because he has threatened a lot and they're pushing the boundary now, because I think that they think this guy just threatens and never actually does anything. So we're getting close to that time when Donald Trump is going to have to do something to put them in their place. Whether it's this or not, again, I don't know. Dispense with expectation. But here's the thing. When you are in the minority, and you are in the minority in the House, right? And, you know, the voter fraud stuff, that's a different discussion. When you are in the minority, chaos is your friend. You want to create chaos because you need to present yourself as the alternative to the party that's in charge. Now, if the Democrats have plans of publicly prosecuting various aspects of the Russia investigation, it is your duty in the minority in the House to disrupt that at every possible opportunity. So when the Democrats want a news story about, you know, some member of the Trump campaign having cocktails with Russians in, you know, with vodka in them back in 2012, you want them talking about some other aspect, and you can just leak a little bit of a report, a D-class, you know, just at that perfect time, just to fuck them up, right? And you create chaos, and then at the next election, the Republicans can turn around and say, hey, these guys have been doing nothing but running around, putting out fires. They can't even do an investigation. You don't want this kind of chaos where, you know, you don't want this chaos in the House. Put us back in. We'll get everything nice and stable again.
Absolutely. I'm going to give you guys a class right now. Timing is everything, and it just happens to be so perfect. Is that what Boogie was talking about? There's advantage politically when you know something, and sometimes you let your opponent know that you know something. So somebody has decided that they want to play chess with me. So now's the perfect time for me to go ahead and play that chess card and let them know that I can tell you, and I'm going to let all of you guys watch it happen in real time, because I'm going to tell you that I already know about it. Is that I'm going to go ahead and let this out. This is how you play chess. Ready? Somebody thinks that they can play against me and thinks that they are going to try to replace me in certain aspects. And it's somebody that claims to be on my side. It's somebody that claims in public to be on my team. But they decided to work behind my back and think that I wouldn't find out. And they want to play chess with me. And now just by me saying this, that person knows that I know. And now you're going to watch it in real time. You're going to watch the meltdown happen in real time, because I didn't say a name. I didn't say a thing. I didn't even talk about what they did. But now they know that I know. And now you're going to get to watch it, because that is how you play politics. You want to play chess with me after realizing that I've been outsmarting you this whole time? Now we're going to play chess. That's how you play politics, folks.
Oh, I love it when you talk real. On the back of that, James, it's time for the hammering.
Stop the hammering.
One of our personal favorites. You know what? I'm almost tempted to play the little theme song that I came. Is it okay to cross-pollinate shows, James? Do you want to hear Don Lemon's theme song one more time? I'm not sure. Do you want to hear it?
Let's play it because we haven't played it on Tab Show. Let me set this up. Boogie on his show created this song, this little intro for Don Lemon like he does for Brian Stelter. And let me tell you, the first time you hear it, you're going to be like, what the hell is this shit? The second time you hear it, you're going to be like, well, all right, whatever. Then the third time you hear it, you start bopping your head. And so Boogie literally the other night on the show played this song like 15 times. So right now I'm warning you, half our audience that follows Boogie is going to be bopping along to the song. The other half are going to go, what the hell is this shit? And Sin Soaked has the perfect way to express that. So I watch the chat right now. It's going to be funny.
Okay, let's rock and roll with Sour Lemon. Oh, you getting any volume there?
No audio. There you go. Restart it. It's not fair to the crowd. Restart it.
You can't hear it. If you hear the volume, it'll ruin everything because it'll double up.
We got it the second time.
The basic premise is if you just because you're a lemon, it doesn't mean you have to be sour. There you go. All right. Don Lemon, ladies and gentlemen, let's rock and roll on the hammering. This is why we shouldn't cross-pollinate.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. And it's been a really huge day in the Mueller investigation. Our blockbuster news, the president's former fixer and keeper of secrets, apparently not keeping those secrets anymore. I'm talking about Michael Cohen. He's saying that he was lying to protect the president when he told Congress that negotiations to put a Trump Tower in Moscow ended before the Iowa caucus.
Now, just apply a little bit of logic here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. The worst possible person that you can have as a star witness is someone who is already a liar. Now, people, as someone was in the chat earlier, I think it was Philly, saying, Michael Cohen pleads guilty, but you think this is evidence of Hillary's guilt? And I'll say, well, Michael Cohen has pleaded guilty by coming out and saying that he's a liar. So the problem is, like, this is the problem, right? Like, oh, yeah, we got him now. You really don't have anything at all. It will take a cross-examiner with some talent, and I would suggest that should Donald Trump ever end up in a courtroom, which I don't think is even possible at this point, but if he does ever end up in a courtroom, I'm pretty sure that the people representing him are going to have some kind of talent, right? So it would take a cross-examination, maybe 30 seconds, to present Michael Cohen as the most untrustworthy, unreliable witness that the government has ever used in a case ever. And then it's all, then it disappears. But see, the same thing happened with Stormy Daniels, remember? Like, so people were coming out, oh, Stormy. And I said, you know what? If the story's true or if it's not true, the situation is the exact same. She's a liar. And I'll go, well, what do you mean? I said, well, okay, well, when she signed the NDA, like the non-disclosure agreement, she was either lying then or she's lying now. Because she's coming out, because she signed the NDA saying, I won't talk about it, then her talking about it, she's a liar, right? Right. So if she had sex with Donald Trump or didn't have sex with Donald Trump, that's completely irrelevant to the point that she's a liar. Where has she gone now? She's now accusing Michael Avenatti of, doing things in her name, and she didn't even want him to do. Oh, no, Michael Avenatti started this whole thing. It wasn't me. I didn't want any part to do with it.
Did you see that?
To which I put on Twitter, Stormy, say you've been fucked by a lawyer. Like, it's not as fun as it looks on camera, is it?
Did you see that double-decker bus that she just threw right over the top of Michael Avenatti there? I mean, it's great. Yep. I mean, think about it. This is what the left has. A bunch of people that will throw their own mama under the bus just to try to save themselves $1,000. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. Let's carry on with Don.
Cohen, as part of his surprise guilty plea today to a charge from Robert Mueller, now says those negotiations continued well into the presidential campaign until June of 2016.
So
says he
He says that the negotiations that he said never happened continued well into 2016. You see Don Lemon's technique here. You get the lie part of it out of the way in the first 30 seconds. You then dedicate the next 10 minutes to the new truth, the new reality, the one that they hope is going to be effective against you, their opponents, right?
Discussed the project with Donald Trump himself on more than 3 occasions.
Oh,
and briefed Trump family members.
Wonder why didn't he record those conversations? He recorded the other conversations.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that it's not illegal. Nothing that Lemonhead has said up to now is illegal. Nothing. Not a single drop.
Nope. Nothing. Exactly.
Working with the Trump organization.
Ah.
That means then candidate Trump was trying to do business with Russia in the middle of a campaign that Russia interfered in.
See the use of language here. Now, a normal person, James, would say Donald Trump was trying to do business in Russia. See, this is the thing. These people, we laugh at it, but these people are very, very good at this level of manipulation and what they do. And like I said, this writing tone and speaking tone is like a fingerprint, right? Once you see it, you can't unsee it, ladies and gentlemen. So he wasn't doing business in Russia. He was doing business with Russia. Like what? A country? So it was Donald Trump and Russia. Like, it doesn't work like that. Business doesn't work like that. Real estate doesn't work like that. He might have been, exploring options of doing business with some Russians to make a building in Russia. That doesn't mean necessarily he was doing business with Russia. Do you see?
Right. That's right.
I know you're laughing. There must have been a comment in the chat.
There was a comment in the chat, but I'm laughing here with you too, is because think about that. That would mean that right now I am doing business with Australia. Right now,
yes.
Every single one of you in the chat is doing business with Australia. By their logic, that's what that means. We're doing business with Australia, goddammit. Where's our free shit? That's what they're saying. But here's the funny shit from the chat. This is the funniest thing in the chat. But James, you haven't heard my mom sipping coffee. Did you say $1,000 for throwing her under the bus?
Fantastic.
To help elect him.
See, now here's the other bit too. He was doing business in Russia and he met with Russians to help elect him. They haven't actually proven, even though they like to say that the Russians helped elect Donald Trump, they can't prove that. That is actually literally unprovable. And for the people that were indicted in, Philly is in the chat and he's constantly talking about, but all the Russians that were indicted for election meddling, if you actually read the indictments, Philly, they will say that they were doing just as much to quote unquote help Hillary Clinton win as well. And this is like, you can look at this a very shallow way. Because Donald Trump won, Russia was helping him. That's not necessarily accurate, my Democrat comrades. The fact is, the strategy that comes from Russia is called active measures. And it's not about, getting one side to win over another side. It's about creating chaos in your opponent's system. And to be fair, you're right. They were successful in creating chaos in the opponent's system. Why? Because the Democrats have continued to push the Russia collusion, special investigations. We need impeachment trials, hamstring the president. Everything is tainted. The whole point of active measures is to throw doubt over the system of an opponent. Bravo, Vladimir Putin. Bravo, Russians who work for a catering company. They never would have guessed that the Democrats would have made their strategy so successful.
And get a load of this detail, which sounds like it would be straight out of the Trump playbook. One idea for marketing Trump Tower Moscow was to offer Vladimir Putin the $50 million penthouse. That's according to Felix Sater, a Russian longtime business associate of Trump's, who worked on the project.
Remind me who has the penthouse at Trump Tower. Remind me who has that penthouse at Trump Tower. Remind me who has the penthouse at the Sears Tower. Remind me who has these penthouses all over the frickin' planet. This is the most ludicrous argument I've ever heard. Like, seriously, you're bitching about normal business.
James, though, if you were Vladimir Putin, wouldn't you want to become the target of an international espionage campaign because you were promised a weekend stay in a hotel room? Like, Get this, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump even promised a penthouse stay to Vladimir Putin. Like, you even know, even if it was true, it doesn't worry me because you know what Donald Trump's like. He would have said, "Hey, Vladimir, don't worry. We're going to build this building. It's going to be the most beautiful building you've ever seen. I'll even let you come and stay in the penthouse once it's done." Okay, then. I'm pretty sure Vladimir Putin can afford to stay in nice fucking hotels. Don't you think?
This is the fucking hysterical thing, is that Lemonhead right there himself knows that this is the game. He understands that. Look, this is how simple I can break this down for all of you. How many of you remember learning for the first time, probably in the 90s, maybe some of you are too young, when we found out that all of these award shows come with these amazing free gift bags for all the rich fucks that get Oscars, right? Do you remember hearing about this? So this we know happens. Rich people trade this kind of shit to each other because how do you get them a present? They buy everything they fucking want. So what you do is you give them jelly, you give them jam, you give them a stay at a place that they can't buy, you give them a penthouse, places they can't purchase or don't want to spend their money on. You give them room and board to go to your private island. You let them sail the 7 seas on your private yacht. This is what rich people do. And Lemonhead himself knows all about it.
And you let them control the American Republic, James, after they stay in your hotel room. Ah.
For what it's worth, Rudy Giuliani tells CNN the president never heard about the idea. But Trump Tower Moscow was just one of the topics Cohen discussed in over 70 hours of questioning by Mueller's team.
70 hours?
He's expected to continue cooperating.
You know, there are Taliban fighters who were dragged off the battlefield in Afghanistan who didn't even get 70 hours of questioning, James. Are you aware of that?
Here's the thing that's got to have this president really, really, really rattled right now. The news...
He's shaking in his Russian boots, James.
After he turned in his written answers to Mueller's questions, including questions about the Moscow project. And if the president's answers don't match what Cohen now says, that spells big trouble.
Why?
Rudy Giuliani.
For who? So like he even said it. If Donald Trump's answers don't match what Cohen has now said, because Cohen has completely changed his fucking story, then it's trouble. Did you notice that this plea came after Donald Trump submitted his written answers? Like, isn't this obvious here? Donald Trump submits his written answers to Robert Mueller. I think it was like less than 48 hours later. All of a sudden, Cohen's back in court again. Oh, no, all of the things that I said before that match up with what Donald Trump says, that was a lie. I was lying. Sorry, guys. Right? Yeah. I bet it took them 70 hours to go through all of Donald Trump's written answers and go, okay, you're going to say this one's a lie, this one's a lie, this one's a lie, this one's a lie. Go get him, Tiger. Yeah, I just made it all up. Don Lemon's like, okay, now it's the real story. This time, Michael Cohen is absolutely telling the truth, and it just so happens to be after Donald Trump submitted his answers in writing. Oh, bravo. What a play. Fantastic stuff. Well done.
Says there's no contradiction. And we haven't seen those answers. But Robert Mueller has.
Oh, yeah.
The president reacting to all of
we
this
know.
just about the way you'd expect, because sources are telling CNN tonight that he is, quote, in a terrible mood, spooked and completely distracted.
Oh, my God. Oh, I don't even have to add anything to that.
Nope.
Which is about right.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right.
An hour after Cohen dropped his bombshell this morning, the president stood before the cameras on the South Lawn and did what he always does. First, deny.
He's trying to get a much lesser prison sentence by making up a story. It's so very simple.
Look, James,
Cohen is lying.
Look how spooked he looks.
He's trying to get a reduced sentence.
Look how spooked and scared and afraid Donald Trump looks by saying Michael Cohen. Yeah, oh, yeah, he's shaking in his Russian boots, James.
Yeah. Isn't it winter in Washington? I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's freaking cold in Washington, D.C. right now. He's literally outside, no trench coat, nothing. I don't see him twitching at all. And these guys are saying he's scared, he's lonely, he's all by himself. They're trying to isolate him. Oh, are you out of your fucking mind, dude? This is Comedy Central. We need to add another C to that CNN. It's literally Comedy Central News Network.
James, he's probably warm due to the cases of Russian vodka he was sent in exchange for handing over America to Vladimir Putin. You get a hotel room, you send me the vodka. Beautiful. Job done.
Then backpedal.
Backpedal.
We were thinking about building a building. I guess we had in a form. It was an option. I don't know what you'd call it. I decided ultimately not to do it.
And then there's a formula here. And then
wait. What's
now here's the
what's
thing.
the backpedal there?
Even if he was right,
if that's a lie, show me Trump Tower, Moscow. Show me the fucking building. Where's the building? Where's the building, James? Where's the address? Show me Trump Tower in Moscow. Show me the $50 million penthouse with Vladimir Putin laying in it and apparently a tarp over the bed so you don't have to wash the urine off the sheets from the Russian hookers, James. Show me the hotel room. Where's the hotel? Oh, Donald Trump was lying. He's backpedaling. What do you mean he's backpedaling? There is no building. There is no building.
Matter because I was allowed to do whatever I wanted during the campaign.
That's right.
So it is not.
That's right. He could have been banging 15 hookers in the fucking porch of outdoors right there on the front steps of Trump Tower. And it doesn't have anything to do with this.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump backpedaling. He's scared. He's alone. He's confused because the guy who is now officially known as the world's greatest liar changed his story after Donald Trump gave his answers to the very same questions, which are now Donald Trump's answers are now wrong because the guy that we all know was he admits that he was lying the first time, says so, James. Oh, because the guy who's lying says so.
It's perfect timing because we were just talking about it. So this was the best troll comment. And I know it's not a bad troll. It's a good troll comment. Baby, it's cold outside. I really can't stay.
Stop it, you sexist pig. All right. Let's try this one more time, James. I think I've got it to work this time. I'm just going to mute you for a sec. Let's go.
And the little flowery stream, but the fruit of the woodland is impossible. Trees very pretty, the little flowery stream, but the fruit of the woodland is impossible.
Did it work?
It worked enough. It worked well enough. We still got a little bit of that round robin going, where it's like I sing the first half of a line and then you start behind me and we just keep going. Like, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, that kind of thing.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. The biggest liar in Washington is now telling the truth, which proves that the other guy he's talking against was lying all along. There's your havery.
Stop the hammering.
Okay, we will get right on that. They want you to post that Don Lemon song in a tweet. So, yeah, they want to hear the actual version of it. So, Boogie will get right on that. Folks, that's our show for this evening. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at, before I get to that, thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for putting up with the drama. Today I've been in this chair for like 8 hours. And I literally produced somebody else's show earlier today. Well, the cat's out of the bag. I produced Brandon Strock today. It was a perfect show. Everything went perfectly, the whole show. I get to my own show, and it starts off as a shit show. But you guys have always been there through thick and thin with me. They call me 3-Scope Jimmy for a reason. Things happen around me, but we get it done, right? We literally keep getting it done.
James, just blame me for this one. It's all my fault. Everything's my fault. Always has been.
So thank you all. Thank you all for being loyal. Thank you all for being here. I love you guys. Boogie loves you guys. Follow me at Real Person PLTCS. Follow Boogie at Boogie Bumper. Follow us at TAV Show. You can always find us, all our archives at TAVshow.com. With that being said, folks, we will see you next week. Aloha. Have a great night.